pretty much the entire morning going on, just absolutely grilling myself, a massive self-loathing kind of session over my story last night. So many aspects that I didn't like, and things like, oh, your tan looks absolutely, your clothes are getting so big from all the weight loss and you're having to pull them over the shoulder and you look absolutely ridiculous. To say that you're trying to just be savvy and save money, but like you're going to do all your stories and look absolutely ridiculous like that. You've said those things before. Like, you really actually think that people are going to give about so many of those things you talked about, they're just random aspects of your life? Did you not think maybe just stop and consider whether they're actually going to take value from that? You didn't even try and bring value. You didn't even come to the end of it with a conclusion that actually could provide value. You were just sharing for the sake of sharing because you thought it was interesting, but you think everyone else is going to think that the things that in your life are as interesting as you think that they are. Like, did you not consider that? Like, you look ridiculous. You should have recorded it earlier so that you weren't as tired and you were better and more on point. And then that took you longer, which meant that you didn't get as much sleep, and went on and on and on and on and on. And then I just snapped myself out of it. I was like, it doesn't matter how good or bad you are. You will always be able to find stuff to make yourself go down this line of thinking. And it's so wrong, because it is not advanced self-review. It is not to get better. It is just self-loathing for the sake of what do you get from that? You get nothing. And if you continue doing it, you will stop doing what you love. You won't even start doing what you want to do. And it doesn't help anyone. It will stop you completely, And I'm even thinking right then, like I can't even think of the word that I was trying to use because I'm so tired. It's never ending, and the mind will just run rampant if you don't intercept it.
You know what's funny about this is that in this video I am doing an assessment, and I have come to a conclusion in a state where I think that conclusion is actually the sober thought. Whereas it's not for the reason that it is a self-limiting belief that was facilitated by hormonal dysfunction. It is hormonal dysfunction assessing hormonal dysfunction. Inception. That line that I said about there's always going to be something to get angry at yourself about. You're always going to keep coming back to this, that you will always be able to find something to berate yourself about. That was another belief that I held true, that I just took as fact, because when you have been living in a state of hormonal dysfunction your entire life, and majority of the people around you are also living in a hormonal state of dysfunction, then you don't have any other reference point. So you look back, you cast your mind back, and then because you have nothing else saying anything to the contrary, you go, that is fact. I will always be able to get into this state. I know that because of XYZ, because I have nothing that I can possibly come across that I've ever seen, ever experienced, that says otherwise. So if there is nothing saying otherwise, then that means that what I am saying is fact. When it wasn't. It wasn't. Because I'm in a state of hormonal flourishing, I call it now, my mind doesn't go into that state, because there is a dramatic, distinct difference between berating yourself and holding yourself accountable. I hold myself accountable now to the nth degree, in everything. I am the picture-perfect definition of a type A personality, of a perfectionist. But I can now employ that mindset in a healthy manner. I can now go 150% and go overboard and go and have myself so accountable that I know in the back of my mind, in my subconscious, in my conscious, at all times, that I would have thought of absolutely everything that could possibly coming at me, that anyone could possibly be thinking, that any possible outcome of anything that I am doing, and I have calculated absolutely everything so that I have made a conscious decision on everything in my life, and I've accepted the risk and I accept the responsibility, and I can do that in a way where it's self-love because my hormones are sorted. This idea that you will always be living with this inner critic that is going to, it's not this helpful critic, that it is this critic that is going to continually berate you, belittle you, make you feel insignificant. This idea that you are always going to live with that, the only way I see that being possible is if you don't address hormonal dysfunction. Because that voice, to me, in my personal experience, that voice is not actually me. It sounds like me, it uses my words, but it's not me. It is hormonal dysfunction, right? It is not me. It is because as soon as I sorted my hormones, went away. Nowhere to be seen, right? My body doesn't need it. It's got no fuel. It's got nothing to bring it about. That voice, that is how I see it, is it's indicative of a spiral. It is a voice that comes about when there's this commotion of hormones, when there's all this dysfunction brewing. It's almost like the steam that comes up. And just echoes when it comes up. That's that voice, right? It goes away as soon as you stop fueling it. As soon as your body stops fueling it. All of that suffering, right? All of those days, there were so many days and moments. And I know that you would know this too, right? We would have all experienced that because hormonal dysfunction is very common. So many moments, so many days stolen due to that, due to hormonal dysfunction. Imagine, I cannot even begin to imagine how much different my life would have been, how much more present I would have been if I didn't have that voice in my head, that hormonal dysfunction talking all the time about everything, critiquing me about everything, non-stop, all the time. Never enough, never enough, never enough, never enough. And then there'd be those moments that you would win so big, so amazing, so monumentally that it would stop for a second. And then it would come back in. I don't have that voice anymore. I don't have that voice at all. Because that voice wasn't me. There are a lot of videos online, a lot of videos on Instagram, which say you need to accept this voice and thank this voice. And I understand where they're coming from, right? But there are so many videos about acceptance of dysfunction. We accept dysfunction so that we can go on and treat the dysfunction, so that we can solve the dysfunction. We don't accept the dysfunction so that we can go on living with it, right? But there's so many videos, so much content out there saying you need to accept this as you. And that is so damaging. It is not you. How does it make any sense whatsoever for you to be, for a voice that is berating you to be you? That, oh, okay, so a healthy person, a happy person, everything, we are going to accept that they're always going to have this voice in their head telling them that they are utterly worthless and are terrible at absolutely everything. And then that's healthy. How does that make any sense? It doesn't. It doesn't. So, can you afford to risk it and not get your hormones sorted, not check your hormones, not make sure that you have your hormones working for you? Can you really afford to risk it? Because where does this mindset lead? Well, I'm going to be going into it. Where that leads for me, well, yeah, where I got with it. But where does it lead? When it just keeps compounding. And how damaging is a mindset that has been getting spread around? How damaging is the mindset of, that's just you? Imagine having this voice in your head and someone saying, that's just you, you just need to accept it, right? Just trying to help you. When it's making you feel utterly worthless. Imagine being told that's never going to go away. That is so wrong, and it gets me annoyed, very fired up, in a calm manner because my hormones are sorted, but it gets me annoyed because it's a self-limiting belief that someone else is harboring. It's a self-limiting belief that someone else is harboring, and then they're coming online and then they're going and putting that on you. And you might be in a position like I was where you've got no other reference point, no one else operating differently. So then you go on and take that on as truth. Oh, well, then that must be true because that's how I've always felt, and that's what everyone else has always felt, and now this person online is saying that, and they look like they're trying to help me, and they probably are. They probably are trying to help. And then you go and accept that. Okay, I'm always going to have this really negative voice in my head that's going to say all these things to me. I'm just going to accept that. When it's an utter lie, when it is not true whatsoever, and you can live free from that. I now do. So are you worth it?